is it? You just, you want, because usually the volume is,
Yep, I got it up high.
okay.
Okay.
All right, so. Okay, so, welcome everyone. So I guess this is what we have. I'm sure somebody will come sneak it in later and stuff, which is fine, so. Okay, so welcome to the Apothecary. So, so our pharmacy here is, how many have been here before? Okay, and a few haven't then, so, okay. So our pharmacy is a little different than many, so we're a compounding pharmacy. So, which is, we make, all of our prescriptions are made from scratch, so, which, you know, so you might ask, well, what would be the reason for that? What kind of things are gonna compound? Yeah, a whole variety of things, you know, like potentially, things for pediatric, children, or veterinary for small pets, you know, they need small doses of something, and then the commercial made item might be 50 milligrams or 100, and the child or the cat needs 1 milligram, so we'll make a liquid form of things. You know, we get asked to make compounds for other practitioners for their patients that are really sensitive to medications. Maybe they're allergic to dyes or propylene glycol, or, you know, other components or ingredients in the meds. So, you know, we'll make it without those items in it. We do, mostly what we do is two things now. We do a lot of natural hormone therapies and such for men and women both. So the estrogens, progesterones, testosterones in various mixes and combinations based on the person and what the you know, some doctors prefer different types, and some patients prefer different things, whether it's a capsule, cream, lozenges, suppositories, of that nature. So that's a large part of what we do, and the other large part between the two of them, it's the majority of what we do, is called low dose Naltrexone. So, which is where, you know, everyone's, you know, come here to find out a little bit more information on it. So, so that's what we're here to do, to share what we've learned from going to conferences. We attend a lot of conferences over the years for, they're compounding conferences, which is what we do, and the low dose Naltrexone at this level is not made by one of the drug companies. There is a higher dose tablet that is made by the drug company. It's a 50 milligram tablet. The normal daily dose that they'll use it in that realm is 100, 200 milligrams a day, roughly. The low dose Naltrexone dosing is a half a milligram, 1 milligram, 3 milligram range on that. So, so to get that strength, to get it accurate, and which is really important, because the dosing range on the Naltrexone, it's pretty narrow. I mean, you know, the dose that works for a person there's a tight range. You know, a little bit less won't do quite as much. A little bit more is too much. It creates some issues. So it's really important to have accurate dose on that too, and that's and it has to be compounded. So that's where we get the calls to make that. It's typically in a capsule form. There are dosing parameters where they use really, really small dosing, you know, like a microgram, which is, okay, so like 1 microgram is 1/1000th of a milligram, and a teaspoon holds 5,000 milligrams, you know, to just give you an idea how much is in there. And then there's different reasons for using that dose, and they still get effects on it. So so it's really, really intriguing. Now, has everyone here done a little bit of reading on low dose Naltrexone, or have some understanding of it a little bit? So, and as we're going, if you have any questions on anything as we go along, just, you know, don't hesitate to pop up and ask a question too. Personally, myself, I just prefer to talk like that, not too much for using PowerPoints and stuff like that. I do have a few slides though that will show that just have some basic information on it too, and I guess for those that are listening on live, if you are, the slides don't show up too well, and I know we don't have it pointing on the slides, but we'll read what the slide's saying when we get to it at that point too. So you're really not missing anything by not seeing the slide on the computer screen. So I guess we're we've been we've really, it's been probably the last couple of years where we've really seen a real increase in the amount of prescriptions that we've seen here, which correlates to just practitioners that are aware of the low dose naltrexone at this dose and at this level. So it's it's not made by a drug company at this level, and so there's no, it's not in any of the journals, medical journals, and there's no sales reps coming around and sharing with the doctors about the the use of this item. So it's just it's the word that's really got around is more word of mouth is where it's gotten around it. So it's because it's why don't more people know about it? And I would say it's probably, I don't know the exact numbers, but probably 95-98% of physicians aren't aware of the use of low dose naltrexone at these levels and for the conditions and situations that they're using it for. But it's becoming more known and more finding out about it, and just being aware of it, and getting and having access to the research and studies that there are out on there. There's actually, I don't know the exact number, but there's over 1,200 articles or papers on PubMed, on the use of low dose naltrexone for really dozens of different conditions that they got listed on that. They have a study or paper on it too. So just really a whole wide range of it. So it is there. It's just a matter of knowing, and the practitioners that we have begun working with, and a lot more that have just that we've known, and that are saying, gosh, yeah, I'm interested. It sounds intriguing. Just if you can get some information to me, we'll take a look at it. So we gather some. In the binders that we gave you, a couple of the the more what we feel are the most important or relevant articles that give a good overall on the low dose naltrexone are in there too. So when a practitioner calls to look for information, those are some of the articles that we send along to them to read and such. So it's just been, so our journey with this, we've actually been asked to compound it. Gosh, probably the first time we did was probably 20 years ago, I would say. We had one practitioner that used it occasionally. So I know, and back then I actually didn't really even know exactly what they were using it for. They just, could you compound it? Go, yeah, we could compound it. And I didn't really, for the stretch, I didn't really look into exactly all the details on it, and there's less information on it back then. But personally, I did get into it too. My father was a pharmacist as well, and he liked to research and look into things. But unfortunately, he got cancer probably about 11 years ago, and just in researching and trying to find things that we could do, whatever we could do to try to help in his circumstance, we actually did compound low dose naltrexone for him. He's the one I didn't think about, but he came across it and said, gosh, there's research on it for even in use in oncology and cancer situations, and so we went ahead with it. We would have done it differently now, I think, than we did it then. We've learned a lot more about the dosing and different parameters of that, over the last few years than we knew then. In his case, it was really too late to do anything at that point too. So he took it for a while, but it was. I wish we would have known about it earlier. I think things could have been better then. So, but that's where we really started to. That was when I started to read it. He did a lot of research, and I started looking into it then, so I got a better understanding of then. So, but it's just been the last couple years. We've learned more about it. We've been to some of the conferences, and now we're seeing firsthand the results and effects that it can have on people's health and on their lives. I mean, it's really intriguing, and really exciting and really rewarding to see some of the things that are happening to some people. I mean, some amazing things that we're not really amazed anymore, but you still kind of are, when it happens, you just, because you hear it and you've heard it already, but it's like, gosh, it's still, sometimes it doesn't even make any sense, what's happening to somebody, like in the first week of them taking it, even at the lowest dose starting in. So that part is, it makes it really, fun and rewarding to come to work every day. I mean, we have new people starting on it pretty much every day, and that have just started on it. So so pretty much every day, somebody that started a month ago or 2 months ago comes in for a refill, and they'll just be sharing what's going on with their situation and stuff. So it's been very exciting. So. Now, as far as the dosing goes, the dosing parameters and strategies have kind of evolved over the years. Really in the last couple of years, there's been some kind of shifts in thought on the dosing strategies and protocols. It's really gotten a much broader as far as the different types of dosing and stuff too. And in the old days, there's a pretty straightforward strategy that was set up by one of the first doctors that discovered its use for at this low level for pain and autoimmune type conditions. And it was like 1.5 milligrams for a couple weeks, 3 milligrams for a couple weeks, and 4.5 for a couple weeks, and then ride on the 4.5, and they got good results, but it's probably less than 50% is what the numbers have bore out, from the research that practitioners have done. Had some results, some, and within that little less than 50%, some were amazing, some were pretty good, and some were better than nothing. I mean, they're good enough to stay on it, but nothing outstanding, and they didn't really stray from that too much. It was kind of like, this is the dose, let's give it a try, let's see what happens. And some people it works great on, and some it don't. We don't really know why. Again, still versus not very good results with a lot of these autoimmune and pain conditions. I mean, it was a pretty good group of people that had results and did well with it. So not to discount that at all. But now as more and more practitioners started to use it, when we go to the conferences, you got a lot of very intelligent, very sharp physicians that are using it for more and more patients, getting more and more results, trying more and more different things. And you could see them at the conferences, between presentations. The last one I went to, there might have been 20 practitioners that presented over a 3-day span. It was an international meeting, LDN international meeting. It was in Portland last summer, and they had practitioners from England and Ireland and Germany, I think was another one, or Scotland was there. They'd be talking at the breakout sessions or lunch or whatever. You could see them, sitting around talking. They're all, all excited about it. Everything is, they're just, so the practitioner that presented on Saturday, he'd been there for 3 days already. He or she had been there for 3 days already too, and they're up there, giving their presentation too, and they're just saying, yeah, when I was talking to Dr. So-and-so, we were discussing some of these circumstances where, we wish we were getting better results than we were, and we had done a little bit of this, and that doctor done a little bit of this, so we were kind of, so they're just sharing their ideas and coming up with, better ideas. I mean, it's their really their thought process overall that it really should be helpful for, or beneficial for anybody, is what they are, for really any condition is what we're seeing. And again, in some ways that doesn't really make any sense. You know, how could that possibly be? I mean, if it's too good to be true, it is. Yeah, it is too good to be true. It's, you know, and we're seeing that here as well. And we'll talk a little bit about some of, what it's working on and how we get there. Getting back to the dosing and such, it really depends on the person, individual. I mean, there's no standard protocol dosing. There's no black and white target or, dosing protocol anymore, not like the old days, so, it's just really found for the best success, we just start low, because some people do better on the lower doses, and if you go to that, if you read the studies and research, you'll see a lot on 4.5 milligrams. That was always kind of the target dose, and still sort of is a target. When you go in and dosing, it's not just willy-nilly, just haphazard. So there is a strategy to go forward, but the whole time you're assessing the person in front of you, and as you're tapering up, along the way, some people just, even at the lower doses, start doing really well. Well, that becomes their dose. I mean, that's their target, which you find out at the time. And you just keep tapering up to the point where they start to notice things coming into play, whether it's pain, inflammation, mood, anxiety, sleep. I mean, just really whatever, it pretty much almost whatever parameter or issue or scenario that's occurring, it can come into play. I mean, again, at the conferences, they got, I think they said they've got like 150 indications where they've done some study or that says that this, they've had some results, but so even there, the doc will be presenting, one in an audience will raise their hand and say, would it work for this? And they say, well, there's not a paper on it, we don't know, but it should, because that's related to this, fibromyalgia or arthritis or lupus or multiple sclerosis, that's another autoimmune thing, similar characteristics, underlying scenario, similar. There's no reason in the world why it wouldn't, and again, why not try? The side effect profile, there's really basically no side effects with it. Some things occur in the early stages. It's working on the immune system, so it's starting to just affect things. It's gonna, to get better, it has to work on the immune system and move it to a better state. So sometimes when that happens, it stirs things up a little bit. So, maybe some people might get a little queasiness or a little upset stomach, because it's kind of detoxing thing, and there's some other things it's moving in positive ways that'll be the effect on it. But that, goes away in the end on that too. And most of the time, starting on the lower doses, it's not that prevalent, or if it is, it's tolerable. I mean, most of say, I can handle it. If it occasionally gets too troublesome for some, we actually just have them open up the capsule and stir it in it'll dissolve, and then just drink half the dose, and just go in with half, and then the other half of the glass that's tomorrow's dose, and if they tolerate that, just stick with that, then move up. But then that it goes away in the end. It shouldn't be an issue, and sometimes in the early stages it can affect sleep a little bit. Sometimes it can create little, sometimes vivid dreams, so it's, and some, some strange dreams. Sometimes we've had, different stories on that. So, pets talking to you, and I think Steve said his dream was his dog's nose fell off, and it was like right over there.
And
Yeah.
called the dog, and the dog came, and oh no. And the nose was on the floor, and I pick it up and I go to everybody in the house. Have you ever seen this before?
Yeah.
It is a little bizarre.
Yeah. So,
Sounds like LSD.
yeah, so anyway, so some, and then some are just called, it's not, we've never really heard of terrors or nightmares or anything like that. Just, some get really colorful, maybe kind of odd and stuff. But I know they use it fair, and actually the VA hospital is doing, the national one, is doing a study on the use of low-dose naltrexone for veterans and PTSD and all their injuries and stuff. So, and I've talked to some practitioners that worked a lot with those too, and they're a little maybe cautious, a little worried up front with the PTSD. This particular practitioner hadn't really worked with it before too, and she was thinking on the dream side of things. It's like, okay, if we get some dreams going, are we going to stir up some scenarios on these with the PTSD and some of the nightmares? But found out that didn't happen. They might have vivid dreams, but it didn't conjure up any bad or negative things or things of that nature and stuff. So at nighttime it might, and again, depending on the dosing, there's morning and evening doses, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But if there's dosing in the evening, it could, independent of the dreams, it could keep people up. For one, if it's kind of stirring, if it's kind of stirring up the gut a little bit, make it a little queasy, that might, keep you up at night, if like you ate too much before you go to bed. Or one of the big actions, and really the main action that it creates, the benefit, is it really kicks up the endorphin levels in the body. So that's really its biggest effect, and that's the effect of the endorphins and enkephalins. Is everyone familiar with endorphins? And it's kind of like our body's own morphine, so to speak, for pain relief and such. So that's really its main issue, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But the endorphins can give you energy, and it's good for the mood, in addition to taking care of the pain. So sometimes if somebody takes their dose in the evening, they don't feel like sleeping. It's not like they're bouncing off the walls or wired, but they just feel like doing something. So that part can be an initial phase thing, but again, as the body kind of levels off and all of these things, that goes away as well. So in the end, even the experts too at the conferences, what are the side effects? They kind of go, don't really know, So, and I guess you can't say that no, it absolutely no. We just, if there's anything, some people have said the nails get a little cracky, and some may get dry mouth, or it's just be something that's really minor and could be addressed and just kind of more of a little annoying nuisance thing.
Steve, can I interrupt?
Yes.
What is the definition of naltrexone?
The naltrexone, well, it's the name of the drug. So it's a synthetic drug. Okay. It was created, I don't know the exact, like in the 1950s or 60s as and the high dose of it was created for it blocks the opioid receptor in the body too. So its initial use was for opioid treatment. If they're in the center, or alcoholism as well. So in the treatment center, if they could get them to take it, then if it blocks the opioid cells in the body, so it wouldn't, if whoever was trying to sneak a drink or take an opioid, it wouldn't work. It just blocks the effect of that.
What's the basis of the formula? What's it made from?
The naltrexone, it's just a synthetic drug that they created. The initial outset was to create something that was going to block, somehow they must have had a molecule that did that, and they just tweaked it so it totally covered.
But nobody knows for certain what it is.
So, yeah, well, I suppose, you know,
Most
I
of
mean,
these are made from petroleum derivatives.
yeah, and I don't know the source of it, I guess. Yeah, I'll look into that and check out, so, but yeah, I don't, but it was synthetically made. And how they, but at that high dose, that's what it does. It really has none of the actions that it does at the low dose, so it's just, it really, so then they have a hard time explaining, you know, well, why does it do this at this low dose and at the high dose? How can it have the two totally concretely opposite effects, it would appear? I guess my thought is, you know, in our pharmacy here, we have the different products. We have the homeopathic preparations, which are, you know, made from materials, and then it's diluted, you know, way down to a really low level from the high dose. You know, like just like vaccinations or allergy shots are made. You know, they take you know, a stronger strength or full strength of something, dilute it down, and that does totally different things than the high dose. You know, if you give the high dose, people have trouble. I mean, there are homeopathics made from mercury and arsenic, and, you know, and venoms that, you know, if you took the full strength, you know, it would kill you. But at the lower doses, it does totally different things. It doesn't have any side effects. So I guess if you really, it's kind of like a homeopathic preparation of a synthetic drug, and with the, you know, going from 100 milligram dose a day down to 1, it's got away from all the side effects of it. But somehow it just opened up these different avenues of action of how it's, you know, because a high dose doesn't work on the opioid levels like that at all, but and are created through a fashion to increase the endorphin levels in the body, and to which creates all these effects on it. So they've done some research on people with some of these autoimmune diseases, and I don't have the exact numbers, but it's roughly, you know, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis. They've tested these levels, and they normally don't. I asked the doctor, you know, do they normally check these? He goes, well, it's not a major test, but it's really, they normally don't check endorphin levels because they wouldn't have anything to prescribe for it anyway at the time. But, you know, all those, they found that people with those conditions, autoimmune, they have about, you know, 18 to 20% of normal endorphin levels. So that's where they are. The low dose naltrexone, and again, you know, getting the right dose of it down there, it increases endorphin levels by almost 300%. You know, so it's, you know, really kind of bringing them back up to normal, and that's, so they're really, you know, kind of hypothesizing that the you know, that may be the big, I mean, there's different things going on there, but that may be the big issue with what is going on with all these people with autoimmune. They're, you know, for whatever reason, I guess I don't know why it's so low, but it's so low, and that's a big part of the problem.
Does
Yes.
Does it,
So I know you mentioned that you were seeing it being used more in the VA system, and I've actually been there for clinical the past few weeks, and I have seen patients that have been on it,
Okay.
and they have reported that they have little to no PTSD symptoms. Their TBI symptoms have actually improved. Do you think we'll start seeing more of an increase of its use in the mental health aspect?
Well, okay, and yes, okay, so the question was, the use of LDN and seeing a use in the VA and seeing the improvements in veterans or patients there with their traumatic brain injuries and PTSD scenarios and mental health things, and that we're actually seeing, you know, there's with some of this new dosing that's come, it's just really in the last couple of years where they've discovered that, we're actually seeing a fair amount of prescriptions for its use for, you know, really mental health issues. I mean, you know, ADHD, you know, anxiety, depression, you know, autism. We've seen a few here, but I know other places they're using a lot of it for there. So really almost anything brain related. I mean, Alzheimer's, it could be, you know, bipolar. I mean, anything in that realm is they're starting to see, and we're seeing just, yeah, I mean, just high school kids with just having some issues with all things in that area, and they're just starting to feel a lot better. So yeah, and again, it's just an awareness of that too. There's not a lot of literature out there on that. I think, I'm not sure in the binder if we have a binder for practitioners as well. There might be an article in there. It's done by Harvard, and it's on for depression. It's a smaller study and such, but I mean, anecdotally, there's tens of thousands and tens of thousands of those across the country that are, at the conferences we're talking to the doctors, they're using a lot of it too. So there's not a research paper on it, but the docs, they're busy seeing patients, so they're writing papers, they're just, they're taking care of their patients and just saying, I have hundreds of those that are on it, and the vast majority of them are doing well, so yeah, we're seeing, and we'll talk about some of the dosing of that later, so. Yeah.
Serotonin, does it affect serotonin?
It has it increases serotonin and dopamine for sure. So that's where, the dopamine neurotransmitter, that the effect on that is that's where it's working on the addiction side. Because even at the high dose too, that's where it's doing, but at that stronger dose, it kind of pushes things a little too far. So on some of the neurotransmitter things, at the lower dose, it's almost like it more normalizes it. It's not overshooting anything. So that, so they are, when we first started, we were talking about the microgram dosing, that really, really low dosing. So they can start using it on those that are still on opioid treatment. Use a little bit higher dose, even like 1 milligram. It'll still block, so it won't, they'll still block the site, so that the opioid medication won't work. So if somebody's in severe pain and they're taking it all day long, you can't sneak it in there any place but on this microgram dosing, they can start in this really low dosing, and it starts working on improving things underneath, and then down the road they begin to, and they even, that's what they note, that the patients start feeling better. Their pain, despite even in the pain med, they still have pain, but they start to notice that they're feeling better, less pain on the same dose, and then they get to a point, it's like, okay, let's try to diminish some of the opioids, and move down a level, and it's like, I'm not having any more pain, moving off, and then as they keep moving up on the other one underneath, they keep moving down in the other ones, and kind of go like that. And they found one of the docs that we work with, they in one of the pain clinics, they tracked it, and they found almost like half the people actually got off the opioids, and pretty much all the other half, they lowered their dose by a fair bit, and maybe given time, they might continue to do that. Just some of them, maybe they had a long way to go and stuff. So it's really working on the dopamine side too. So there's actually a prescription drug. It's called Contrave. It's a mix of two things. One, antidepressant type 1, and then actually there's a dose of Naltrexone LDN. It's a lower dose. I think it's around 8 milligrams of that too, and it's so they find with this, there ends up being weight loss. It's just because it's working on the body in different ways, but it just it takes away cravings and such too, and that's where with while being on it, and for alcohol as well, it takes away the craving. So those that are on it, they just don't. I'm taking myself, and I just know that I don't eat as much when I take it. When you go out to eat, you used to order your whatever plate, and I know I can knock it down easily every single time. Now I bring half of it home. I just can't eat it all. And then if you have a drink, and it's just like, that's enough. So that's the kind of thing that people can notice with it, and they actually have dosing on it for alcoholics, where they can use the lower dose, and it's called the Sinclair method, and they'll if they're going to go out if they take the naltrexone prior to going out, they can, you know, go out and have a drink and just be okay with one drink, you know, versus typically, you know, with alcoholics often is, you know, once they start, there's just no stopping, you know, they just keep going all week, you know, whatever, so. But, they'll stop and they'll just, because they just makes them feel normal, they can have a normal drink and stuff, so it's you know, so it does have some effect on the neurotransmitter side of things as well too, and that's some of the mental health things too. Working on serotonin obviously is beneficial as well, and that's part of it, you know, where people feel better. You know, the other part of it is the endorphin side of things too. It's just people just feel better, and I think, and it just kind of gives them brain energy too. So part of, I think, you know, that's just part of it. People just start to, you know, feel better. They just feel like doing things again. When your brain, you know, is a little better state, you know, it's like taking that first step when you're exercising, you know. It's always hard to take the first step, but, you know, if your brain's telling you, yeah, it's not so bad, you know, once you get going, then you're fine. So it's kind of, you know, touching on that aspect of it, so. We're, you know, so getting back to the, you know, the mental health dosing on that. So this is something that's just really come about in the last couple of years. The Harvard study was from 2018, and I think what's interesting is that the, you know, this type of benefit comes really at the lower dosing, you know, 0.5, 1 milligram. You know, they got a twice a day dosing on that. That's, you know, that's working on that, and they didn't really notice it in the past because the prior dosing was that 1.5 milligram to 3 to 4.5, and they just missed it. You know, I mean, it's, you know, they never really noticed it because they always started higher and they were past it. And like I said, you have to have the right dose here to, you know, have effect on it. So, you know, so, and I don't even know which, maybe it was a collection of doctors figuring things out, but they, you know, discovered that, I think some ended up starting on lower dosing because of maybe side effects or whatnot. And what was reported, the patients that were taking it would start taking it at the lower dose and do better, and they'd start to say, gosh, you know, is this supposed to help for my mood or energy? Because I'm just feeling better on it. It hasn't touched my pain yet. You know, my arthritis or fibromyalgia is still troublesome, but gosh, I'm just feeling better. My mood's better and such, sleeping better. But my pain's still there, and you know, typically is all is, well, we're using it for pain, you know, arthritis and stuff. So okay, if the pain's still there, and you haven't noticed any relief in that, we have to bump up the dose. So they keep bumping up the dose to get, you know, 3 milligrams, 4, 5, 4.5, 5, till they get to the level where their pain was resolved, and then they'd say, well, yeah, my pain's starting to improve and stuff, but gosh, you know, I don't feel as good anymore. My mood's not as good. You know, where'd that go? You know, I want that back, and I think, you know, I don't know how it all transpired, but it's probably, I'm sure initially the docs, they didn't know. I mean, they had no idea. You know, they probably said, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's dang. You know, what do we do on that? And but some of them I think got together too, and they started thinking, okay, you know, we started these people on the low doses. It was on the lower doses they started to notice I felt better, and they're feeling better in that, and we went higher and it went away. Maybe it has something to do with the low dose on that too. I don't know, but so they'd have them keep taking their higher dose in the evening. That was, you know, controlling their pain and whatnot, and some people mood wise and stuff, they'd feel better at that dose, but not that many. So they said, well, why don't we just try a low dose in the morning again? I mean, it seemed like the low dose helped. Why don't we just try it and see what happens? There's no side effects. It's not going to harm anything. Why not try it? And they did, and it, you know, they just had results and it worked. So, you know, and then it's just kind of evolved off of that. So, you know, but so what it is, you know, so again, it's the endorphin increase. So you're taking a dose, and it's always given at bedtime, you know, too. So, you know, that was always it was always given, never in the morning. So they started in the morning and, you know, they get that endorphin increase and, you know, it's again serotonin, other things. And that, it gives them a little boost. They just felt better, just had it, you know, just energy and mood and energy, you know, probably the same thing, you know, and then they go, gosh, and, you know, they just started sharing with other practitioners that, hey, you know, we've been doing this and we've been noticing this, it's been, you know, it's been amazing, and you know, it's just kind of expanded off of that, and so it's kind of overall, it's been, you know, because of really no side effects, not that expensive, you know, they've just got to the attitude, those do it, it's like, you know, why not try it? I mean, it's sure what, you know, you know, some of these things we've exhausted all the options, you know. There's a lot of good medications that people take that do well, but some people just don't respond to them that well, and, you know, it's like, we don't have anything else to do, and they've had results, so, yes.
So for some of the autoimmune diseases, you know, like specifically I'm thinking MS, is that just for pain for the LDN, or would that also take the place, I mean, is it also helping exasperations not to happen? You know, does it help to control the disease or just help the pain?
It can modify it, you know, so it can move things to a better state. I mean, that's really what's expected with it if you get the right dose. It's not temporary just for pain for 8 hours and then it wears out and it's gone and stuff like that. But you know, so it's really, you know, so the endorphin, and there's some things that it's doing that we don't even, right, you know, because it's doing all these things. So they've identified a lot of it. You know, so the endorphins work for pain, and then they help, like we talked, for the mood. But it also has modulating effects on the immune system as well. So that's where, you know, so it's affecting the balance of autoimmune or anti-inflammatory mediators in the immune system and pro-inflammatory mediators, you know, just bringing down the pro-inflammatory mediators and increasing the anti-inflammatory mediators. So it's really, you know, and it also has, you know, connections to and communications with and signaling with the endocrine system. So the thyroid, the adrenal, ovaries for females, testes for men, so on the hormone side of things too. But I think, you know, its effect on, so thyroid is kind of where they see the, you know, could be part of the energy thing, could be part of the weight management thing, because it's helping you know, it's just making it work better, you know, to the point where if those that begin on the LDN, if they're taking thyroid replacement therapy, you really have to, well, people get it monitored anyway, but they have to monitor, because, I mean, their thyroid numbers and things will get better, because it's just underlying, it's making things work better. So people will have to take less thyroid replacement therapy on that too.
So conceivably, like for MS, it could be in place of some of the other drugs, not in addition to.
Some, you know, the nice thing about it is you can, other than opioids, you know, you can't give it at the same time. I mean, it just blocks them. It doesn't create any, you know, weird side effects or anything. But you can slide it in with pretty much any other medication. That's really the beauty of it. So whether you're going to take it in for, you know, any of the mental health medications, antidepressants, pain meds, the biologics, you know, that they use for the autoimmune scenarios, you know, whatever, you can start taking low dose Naltrexone and building up and getting, you know, helping that to affect things and change things, and then down the road, and we see it for, you know, pretty much any medication, you know, you could start sliding back on some of them too, because as things are improved, you don't need some of them as much too. So that's, you know, so there's, you know, that process would be, you know, because we have people with, you know, just with their anxiety med or their sleeping med or something like that, they get to the point and go, gosh, I'm just feeling a lot better. Do I need to take this, you know? And so I'll, you know, go from 40 milligrams to 20, you know, and see how you do, and gosh, I'm feeling fine, you know, just tapering off per effect, and how people are doing as they're moving off it and such. So, but yeah, you can begin with anything. So even on the opioids too, I mean, at the really low dose, they can keep taking them, because that's a real stress and fear for those that are on that too. Because you know, if I can't get my pain med, what's going to happen? How bad's my pain going to be? How, you know, that, I mean, that's probably the worst stress, you know, just what's going to happen, you know. But the nice thing about this is you can just start taking and just say, you know, we're not going to take your pain meds away unless, you know, unless we can, you know, and you'll help us decide that, you know. We're not going to start yanking things away on you too. You can just, when the time's right. But you know, we see, you know, people going, you know, starting to move off their other pain meds, and you know, I mean, so that's really the goal. So it is really, you know, the literature catch, it's really kind of resetting and recalibrating, you know, the system, you know, you know, the adrenals are huge in the immune system and inflammation and all that too, and the adrenal glands are largely responsible for that. And you know, most of us as we get older, our adrenals are just, they're in trouble. You know, they're just we beat the heck out of them, and they've probably tried for years to help us, and then they've just say, I just can't, you know. You're on your own. I can't do anything. But you know, because adrenals are, you know, it's cortisol and other immune system factors, and you know, insulin and blood sugar levels, and you know, depression and anxiety, and that's all, you know, stress and adrenal driven. You know, all the top drugs are things that can be related to adrenal fatigue and adrenal over stress on that too. So again, it's starting to, you know, kind of reset and recalibrate things, and you know, moving them to better states. You know, so you can't say it's not. You can't say it's going to cure anything, because you know, I think we have what we have. It's just a matter of, you know, being triggered and being expressed. You know, too. I think you know, we all have what, you know, what shows up with us. That's kind of sort of how we're set up and stuff. But we can, you know, this can, you know, this, and there's other things you can do to change that. You know, I don't think we're a prisoner to, you know, our, you know, all things that our genetics are set up to be, I think, so.
So if you've been on LDN for a couple months and not noticing anything, is it time to redose?
Talk to us. So it's really, you know, and so it's finding the right dose, and down, things change down the road too. I mean, somebody, you know, I guess I don't know exactly what's exactly going on, but it seems to me, you know, we've worked with functional medicine and naturopathic docs over the years, so there's always kind of brought up, to heal, you know, you kind of have to peel back the layers, and you got, you know, to, you know, get to your core perfect, better health, you know, that's here. But over the years, things happen, our immune system, maybe we, you know, don't take care of ourselves as good, or, you know, things happen, you just got this illness, you know, non-health that's kind of layered on us too. So I think, you know, just the dose may change down the road. I mean, if somebody's on a dose for a certain while, they could be doing great, but you know, we all say, if you get down the road at any point and you plateau out on the dose where you might be saying, I don't know, I'm starting to notice I'm not feeling as good, or maybe I'm not sleeping as good, I'm kind of starting to notice a little bit of pain, that would be time to, you know, kind of reevaluate the dosing and look at that too, because again, we're sort of, our thought process on that is we're kind of healing. You know, you might have gone through a level of healing of some sort, and now your body's kind of ready to go a little different and a little different level of the naltrexone. You know, might just kind of open up another you know, another avenue or hallway that needs to be moved down to clear things up. So yeah, so definitely on that is finding, and we're finding the you know, this twice a day dosing is we're really, you know, finding that just kind of opens up you know, the possibility of greater success, I think, again, cause you're getting that endorphin increase twice a day too, so, and you can come in at that any time too, if somebody's doing, you know, we'll often do that now, if somebody's been, like maybe a case of somebody's been doing good on dose and they plateaued out and it's 4 point, we might say, you know, if they've never done the morning dose, you know, we would say, gosh, our recommendation would be, you know, based on what we've learned and been taught and what we see, we, you know, we should slide in, talk to the doctor and talk about sliding in just the morning dose, cause then, again, twice a day getting endorphin, you know, releases that are doing things, and we've just been, you know, just, that's, the feedback we get, that's just been beneficial on that too, so yeah, we just tell, as we do it, just, you know, keep in touch, you know, and we'll work with the practitioner and, you know, so I guess it's the firm belief of the, you know, the experts, I think, they believe that there's a dose for everybody, you know, too. Sometimes it's, you know, making some tweaks, and some have to, you know, get to a a certain higher dose, maybe it's high dose morning and evening, but you know, we believe that, you know, we can get there, so. There's things you can add, there's things you can do synergistically too as well, you know, beyond, you know, vitamin D and probiotics and, you know, depending on what's going on, you know, if it's more of a pain inflammation, maybe curcumin or omega-3 fish oils fits in. At the conference, there's the probiotics and the fish oil, or like CBD oil too, that's something too, where there's just part of how that fits in, there's crossover on what it's doing in the body, and there's synergies, and, you know, with, you know, some of these things together, so yeah.
Have you had someone on it for decades, or like?
Well, we haven't had, here, no, for a few years, you know, so the, you know, again, just some of these things at the conference, I mean, these are all the experts too, so that's always the question, is like, how long do you have to take this? You know, do you have to take it forever? Is it, will you take to a certain point and not have to take it anymore? You know, so it depends. You know, it's all individual. I mean, you know, their response was, you know, there could be the person that has fibromyalgia, say, and they take it, and maybe they're on it for a few years, and they're just, you know, I literally don't have any pain anymore. I feel fantastic. You know, do I need to keep taking it? And they'd say, well, you know, you wouldn't necessarily have to take it. You know, we can go off and just see how it's going, and maybe, you know, that person has moved to such a good point that they can maintain after that, and you know, and if doing proper things, you know, hopefully taking care of themselves a little bit and exercising, and maybe they can maintain that for a long time. But I think some of their thoughts is, you know, almost everyone there, all the docs are all taking it. You know, they all just, whether they're ill or not, you know, they're just taking it. Because they're figuring if it's taking out inflammation, helping just the communication and networking and signaling in the body do what it's supposed to do, you know, just get everything recalibrated and addressing things as it should. You know, their thought is, based on some of the things in the literature and just this is what it's doing on the body, that if they're, you know, they're looking at taking it to prevent from getting inflammation. And I mean, all autoimmune, pretty much all scenarios that we catch and that create issues, it's inflammation, you know, too. So they're,
So this has a lot to do with inflammation.
yeah, it's taking inflammation. Yeah, you know, it's inflammatory part is touching on, you know, all things, even the mental health things too. If, you know, if there's inflammation in the brain, you know, that's, you know, pushing things in, you know, not positive ways, I guess you would say. So, you know, I mean, because, and again, a couple of them said, you know, well, if it can lessen your effect on, you know, like getting cancer, I mean, you know, because, I mean, there's literature on it, and, you know, where they're using it in oncology. There's hospitals, oncology hospitals, that are using it in vast majorities of their patients with good results. Even some some of the,
Is it shrinking tumors or what is it doing?
yeah, yep, and even some of the, I mean, there's things on, like some stage 4 cancer, there's, these, at the conference, some of the docs had their patients, it's stage 4, a couple of, anecdotal, but I mean, it happens, it's like stage 4, you get your affairs in order, and, they're, they said 7 years later, they're still getting their affairs in order, because they're still here and stuff, so, on that too, but so yeah, it's the, so it's the inflammatory aspect of it, the endorphins have the pain, but it's kicking up all these anti-inflammatory aspects too, and, like, so omega-3 fish oils, again, that's anti-inflammatory, and, so there are other things you can do on top of it that can synergize with it. I mean, this is doing a pretty good job all by itself, but, if you want to just say, well, what more can I do? Those are things you can do, so, but that's really, it's kind of a big thing. And again, hitting on the adrenal, so it's doing these things on the immune system thing, but on the adrenal side and cortisol thing, that's just a whole nother aspect of positive things that can be doing on the immune system as well. So I mean, it's really, it's kind of clicking on several different, number of different levels and such in the end, so. So I guess, I don't know, I think, did I, so as far as the dosing, it's just a common with the practitioners that we work with mostly, is just start low and taper up till you get to the dose that works well, and most of them have us just, I mean, in the end, the person taking it, decides what the dose is, I mean, it's just, as we talk to them, and some of the practitioners, they kind of have us do the information gathering, so our question is, okay, when we're talking, okay, what dose are you taking now? What are you noticing? What are you happy with? What's positive? What could be better? And then going from there, just talk to the practitioner and make, if there's what could still be better. If it's more of a pain or inflammatory thing, we would want to be looking at the evening dose, tweaking that a little bit. If it's maybe a mood or anxiety or focus or clarity or brain thing, we'd probably tweak the morning dose a little bit more. If they're at that point, if they got both those, on the brain, mental health side thing, we'd probably look at the morning dose. And I mean that, so we're starting really many, even with the taper, we'll have them do a stretch where they'll be doing it twice a day on the taper, just to kind of, the way we look at it, just to kind of open up the avenue as, is that helping you, are you feeling better on that part too? So, I mean, who doesn't want to feel a little better, you know what I mean? So, or sleep a little better, or feel a little more with it and stuff too. So, so on the tapering aspect, you'll run through the doses where it has, where you'll be taking, that has positive effects on the mood and brain and focus on that too. And so at least people know, you maybe you keep going up on the dose, for the pain, and then, like we said before, you'll notice that, gosh, I'm not really feeling as good. And it's like, if that's what if you desire that, which again, like, who really doesn't want to feel good, we'll talk to the doctor and, let's just keep that morning dose in. I mean, it gives you energy, you feel good every day, type of thing, so.
Steve, I got a question about the evening dose.
Yes.
As it relates to problems with dreams. Not everybody obviously has the problem, right?
No, so the evening dose and the dreams, it'll subside in the end as a rule. But if it's an issue up front, depending on the dose and the taper and stuff, we might just say, we'll just say take it earlier. If it's just in the early stage when you're first starting, oftentimes we'll really actually just have them start taking in the morning, because then you get away from that issue. So of the two things, you're avoiding the sleep thing, and you're just, all you're left with is maybe the little queasiness type of thing, and then once the longer you get in, that subsides. if the dosing is twice a day, and there's still some of the evening things too, we'll still say, well, take your morning dose, but then take your second dose more like supper time. Cause usually that little kick and boost and everything, it'll calm down before then. Even if sometimes we might even have to go to 3-4 in the afternoon on that too, and that'll, to avoid that part, so, yeah. Yes,
Do you find, I mean, it's a prescription, you have to have a prescription.
it is a prescription, yes.
Do you find any doctors who just like, I don't know anything about this, I'm not gonna prescribe it?
Yeah, there are, so,
Yeah.
and I don't, it's, there's, I don't fault a doctor for doing that too, till, till they research or read it, cause, in the end, they're responsible.
Right.
Ultimately, especially if they've prescribed it too, so if they're not familiar with the dosing and the parameters, and if something would happen, which with this, I guess you can't say there's not, 100% won't happen, but if they understood that, there really, you can't get any scenario of side effects with this, that would change things a little bit, but going into it, they're just not familiar with the meds and its use and the effects of it and all that too, if they, but we'll have those that do that too, but they're open for it. They'll say, we'll say, well, we got the studies and research. We have a binder that's similar to that, and once they, read it and see the research on it, and the studies on, and see the benefit, the risk benefit on it there's a huge gap. I mean, there's tremendous risk or tremendous benefit, once you get the right dose, and the risk is very, very minimal on that too, and again, the side effects are usually just kind of nuisance things that go away, but in the end, if they're not familiar with it, because there's just the literature is not out, it's there, it's just, you just have to find it and stuff too,
Yeah.
so, but most of the ones that that have just said, gosh, I'll look at it, they've read it, and they said, gosh, I don't really see any reason where there'd be any downfall to trying it, why not try it, particularly with a lot of these autoimmune things where, it's, with some of, you've kind of run the gamut of medications, and there's really not other options out there too, so, it's frustrating, I think, from practitioner side of just some of the options for some of the conditions as well too. I mean, they'd like to, have more things in the toolkit,
Right.
to address things, I think, so,
Sure.
yeah. So, is there anything I
Maybe
Forget
just
to touch
something
on?
to add is, like, if you have a practitioner who isn't familiar but wants more information, we can always send them more information, or they can call and chat with us too.
Yeah.
So that's always an offer you can present to them, and if they're not willing, then we can always find a new practitioner for just that piece of your care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's practitioners that are they've seen what happens with it too, and in the earlier stages with these, they were aware of it, they prescribed it, somebody asked for it too, but now, once they start seeing what's doing, I know they're starting to think, gosh, I've had Joe and Bill and Doreen have been coming to me for years, and I know they got these things, and boy, they would be perfect candidates for this, and now when, we get the prescriptions from some of these too, because we'll ask you, okay, you're familiar with this? Have you heard it before? They go, no, I never heard it before in my life, but my practitioner just said, I need to look at this and stuff, so, the ones that they used to, when were approached by it, they would go with it, but now they just offer it up as the first line, when they come in, so.
Is this LDN, like, some drugs, alcohol is contradicted, is this a drug where if you take it, you're not supposed to drink? Because it can cause adverse effects?
Yeah,
or-
no, there's no contraindication with alcohol with it too. It'll be, again, actually what you would notice with it too. It's kind of funny, a couple of my golfing buddies, they don't take their LDN on golf day. Because they don't have as much fun. They don't take it. So, cause it just, like I said, I mean, I'll take it, and you have one drink and it's like, hey, you want another one? It's like, yeah, no, I'm good, you just don't,
Okay.
so that's what they said, they just don't, feel like it, so yeah, no contraindication with that, actually, it has that effect. It doesn't, it doesn't make them sick or anything like that, maybe they get a little queasy, after, but it doesn't, create any other issues other than, their bodies kinda tell them they shouldn't have it, and they're probably are doing it, so, yeah.
Okay.
So,
No, I was not asking that question for myself,
Yeah,
that was for
yeah,
family
yeah.
friend.
Yeah, I know.
She's on it,
I
she's
know.
wondering.
yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, so, but anyway, but that's, again, like, even if you, go out and have a nice dinner and, can I have a glass or two of wine, well, one's probably gonna be fine, that's
Yeah.
what it is.
Okay.
It's kind of how it works out, it seems, so,
Okay.
yeah.
You said earlier, sorry, that, it's okay to take it with like biologicals or that type of thing.
Yeah, that was a big discussion at the too, and all the docs are, it doesn't create any issues with that too, but, guess their thought is as they move along, their thought is that, this is possible to start, moving off that and move it on to this, cause this is really, it's not suppressing the immune system or fire, so to speak. It's, it's really, moving the body in positive ways to, positive, more positive places, I guess you would say, so.
Yeah, I looked at the pictures, I was asking for my son, who just, actually his first dose of Humira was yesterday.
Okay, yeah. And so what's he taking it for?
Psoriatic arthritis and psoriasis.
And psoriasis, yeah. So there, and then as far as the, so we've got some ideas, general ideas on certain conditions and, dosing that you probably will need to get to have some better effect, and some of the timing things on it too, although we see amazing thing. I mean, there's some people that take it for a few days and, their pain that they've had for long time is 75% better. I mean, it happens, and it's not rare, but it's it seems like there's a small percent that just notice some pretty amazing thing, like dermatologic things. So on the psoriasis, and actually probably the arthritis too. Typically on those, it's kind of the strategy, at least the game plan going in is usually you'll shoot for the 4.5 dose, and then skin things or like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, same thing, get to there and just kind of just ride it. It's a time thing, and it might be 3 months, might be 4 months, it might be 1 month. Where this thing starts to, but it might be 3 or 4 or 6 on that too. But once you because the patient will often say, well, all of a sudden it kicked in on the 5th month, and it's I mean, it was kicking in the whole time. It just took a while. But some of those it takes a little bit longer to get there. But it's forward ahead from that point too. So that's you've made that starts to clear, and again that some of the question is how long do you take it, like for long term, they just because so nobody's probably been on it for, I mean there's people that have been on it for that I've talked to, and 8-9 years or something like that, with still working well and stuff too. Probably nobody's been on it for more than 20, which that's a good stretch. But do you take it the rest of your life? And their belief is probably yes, but maybe if you've taken it for a number of years and things are really well and you're feeling really well, versus going off it and just saying, hey, I'm going to go off it, and then because things will probably over time, just as we get older and just things happen, might start to slip back a little bit. But they're saying, well, maybe you just take it 3 days a week. Because you'll be getting that endorphin and kicking things up, and if if you skip it for a few days, it's not going to go wrong. Your immune on that too. So take it 3 days a week, and so take it routinely on that too. And if you're still feeling good and things are where they should be, that's gonna prevent things from sliding back then,
Do
so.
doctors have to monitor anything, like?
Really,
other
no.
organs
I
or
mean,
anything?
there's, as far as there's no testing or anything that's necessary to monitor it if for any real appreciable reason. You really don't have to monitor liver enzymes or kidney, because it really doesn't, create any issues there. I know a lot of people with, I don't even know all the tests that measure, there's RA numbers and SED rates and, different labs that they'll check for, C-reactive protein, I think, so there are these tests that they're measuring inflammation on that too. It's not that you'd ever even have to do those, but I mean, people are getting them checked, so that would bear out in black and white, what's going on, with the numbers and stuff, and the people that are doing that, I mean, their numbers are coming down, so it's showing less inflammation, but, I mean, it's corresponding, because, I mean, they know that too, because, they say, well, there's days I couldn't even turn the doorknob on the car, or, I could hardly drive, because I could do this, and now that's not happening, so I mean, I know I have less inflammation, because it's just evident, so, on that too, but so there's nothing they really do have to monitor, but, I mean, it's kind of a curious thing on that too, I mean, it'd be good to see that, because that
To make sure
tells
nothing
you.
else is being damaged.
Yeah, on that too, but I mean, I think with our normal routine yearly checkup, they're checking kind of liver enzymes and stuff like that too, so that, that would, some of the kidney functions and stuff like that, so that would, just like all the other things, that would give you ideas if something is going on, so.
I know there was something, in there just looking at briefly, psoriasis, and she had mentioned it. Is there anything with, eczema? My husband has really bad eczema, and the dermatologist said, gave him the prescription stuff, and it cleared up, but it was off, it came back, and he's had it for years. And
Yeah,
he's
a lot of those just kinda, it just kinda suppresses it, kinda pushes it in, so, but then it
Yeah, and he
pops up.
can't keep taking
Well,
it.
cause my thought is, I mean, eczema is not to the extreme of psoriasis too,
Right.
And it does a
Right.
good job on psoriasis, too, so that would be a lesser thing, and just, on top of that, to make
I
it.
mean, is that an inflammation thing? I don't know that much about eczema.
Yeah, well, it seems from the functional medicine naturopathic side, skin scenarios are related to the gut, and inflammation in the gut and leaky gut and that whole scenario. So with that, even the LDN would helpful. I mean, a good omega, good high quality omega-3 fish oil is, the skin needs oil, and
Yeah.
stuff, and that's just dry skin, and then, which, not ironically, that the 3 with the LDN just helps. It synergizes, and then probiotics as well, because that's healing up the gut, but that's what LDN's doing as well, too. So it's healing, it's taking inflammation and healing up the core of
So
health.
conceivably, it
in our-
could help that as
Oh,
well.
yeah,
then.
yeah. I mean, even a good fish oil and probiotics, and hydrating, and there's things you can do to help hydration, could do it,
Yeah.
So, but certainly, that along with that would be moving a lot of things to better states.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, it's just frustrating for him, because we've tried everything.
yeah, on that too, but yeah, it fits
Well,
in
not
for
everything,
sure.
evidently.
Yeah.
If you took that before you went to bed, would it be gone by morning? Absolutely out of your system?
Okay, good question. So, question is, how long does the LDN stay in the body? It's about I suppose it varies from one person to the next. 4, 5, 6 hours is what it's half like, and then it's out. So, and I don't know all the details on all the biochemistry of it, but technically, I mean, the drug is really not doing anything. It's not pushing or pulling the body in any which way. It's just the effect it's having on the endorphins that's doing it. So the drug is in and out in 4 or 5 hours, but it's the effect that it's had on the increased endorphins, which gets to the immune system, which gets to the endocrine system. That effect goes on for, 18 hours roughly, so it's the effect of that's doing the thing. It's the drug's really not doing anything.
The reason I'm asking, I had a knee replacement back in
Yeah,
And I took my naltrexone the night before. And
Okay.
I've had several surgeries.
yeah,
When they brought me out of the anesthesia, this girl was literally screaming on the table to cut the leg off. They just couldn't seem to get the pain medication or whatever down right at that moment. I mean, it didn't take real long before they got it. They just had to be very careful because they didn't want to overdose you.
yeah,
But it's like, and my physician said, no, that really shouldn't have had anything to do with it. I said, well, geez, I don't know why, other than the fact, they just hacked your knee all the heck. But
yeah. So what was the concern then from their end? The pain wasn't taking?
yeah, it's like whatever they were giving me for pain relief was not helping. Like it was blocking, even with
Okay.
that little teeny bit.
Yeah, and it, there's a fine line on, what dose will, and how much it blocks it too, but I guess, and depending on what they use for, because some of the things, a lot of times now they're using different things for pain, some more of the, kind of related to more of the numbing type agents
blocks.
too, the blocks, so that one, there shouldn't be any issue with that, but if they were trying to give something more of an opioid thing for pain, it could be that the LDN was blocking that. But you took it the night before?
I did. I won't do it again.
What?
So, I mean, so then the question is, are you a slow metabolizer?
Right, that's what I was just gonna say.
Do you
Yeah.
metabolize slower than the typical patient, and then maybe there was still some blockage in your system? Or is it really a case of your pain was just that bad and it was just
Yeah.
blocking your
Yeah.
Yeah, because it should be out. So usually, I mean, just to be on the safe side, they usually say if you go into surgery and depending what they're going to use for pain or anesthesia, they just say go off a day ahead of time, because again, the day it's not there anymore after a day and stuff.
I
So
think when I talked to you last time, I had just talked to you and I said, I got another one coming up now. And I think you told me 3 days before.
yeah,
So, naltrexone.
just to be
That we usually, because then we know you're safe.
Yeah.
If you do 3. Like Steve said, more than likely a day is gonna be enough.
Steve.
But, the half-life, as Steve said, is 4 hours, so, if you do that, once you get to 4 to 5 half-lives, it's usually pretty much out of your system. But there's never absolutes, everything's on kind of a curve, and so,
Okay.
how you metabolized it, what was your dose? Was it a 4.5 or was it a,
Gosh,
because right away,
it's
4.5 is
changed
4
'cause I
times
stopped
stronger
it.
than the.
Now I just started it again. I'm thinking at one time she had me as high as 9.
Okay,
Which was really kind of a big one, but I wasn't seeing a lot of relief. And then I talked to Steve, and you had told me about dissolving it in the water. So when I decided to start it up again, I had some 9s left over. I put a half a cup of water in a container, and I'd make that last for 3 sips.
yeah.
And then Annie kind of figured out about where we were, and we started it up again. And so right now it seems to be working good. I stopped taking the methotrexate that I was taking. That was my main reason for getting on it. I was doing fine on methotrexate, sulfasalazine,
Yeah.
and Plaquenil. I don't like the side effects of them. Not that I experienced any, but the list of them is
Yeah,
pretty scary.
and long-term use,
No.
yeah, I mean, the longer on, the more things
Mhm.
come into play and stuff, so.
So I got weaned off the other 2, and then I started the methotrexate on a real 5 milligrams or something like that, or 10. I mean, really minute dose. But I don't want to take that either. I'd rather just take the low dose of
Yeah.
Naltrexone, because I'm not convinced that what I have.
And, because this is, moving, it's just really going the opposite way of those, it's enhancing things, so. So what'd you think of our slide presentation?